Israel has launched airstrikes against militant targets in the Gaza Strip after rockets were fired towards Jerusalem. The Hamas-run Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza says 20 people, including children, have died in the strikes. Tensions between Israel and the Palestinians have spiralled in recent days. Dr. Lana Tutur is from the School of Social Sciences at the University of New South Wales, and she joins us now from Launceston. Lana Tutur, welcome. So the source of this latest tension is being reported as the possible eviction of some Palestinians from their homes in parts of East Jerusalem. How long have these families been living there, and what is the history to this area?
First of all, good morning, and thank you for having me. So to put this in context, it all started with Israel's decision to pursue the eviction of Palestinian families from East Jerusalem from the neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah from their homes. These families have been displaced in the 1948 war, becoming refugees, and settled in these houses. Israel is now claiming that these houses need to be evicted and transferred to Jewish settlers who are claiming ownership over these lands. Just to be clear, according to Israeli law, Israeli settlers can claim property in Jerusalem prior to 1948, the establishment of the State of Israel, property that was owned by Jews. However, Palestinian residents of the city cannot claim their pre-1948 property which they've owned. So this is a testament to what Human Rights Watch has recently called Israeli apartheid, action that is a crime against humanity.
So what are the settlers' arguments over the history of this area?
This area, these houses have been owned previously by Jewish owners before 1948. Israeli settlers have formed NGOs that are now claiming ownership over these properties based on prior Israeli ownership, Jewish ownership, not Israeli, Jewish ownership. Palestinian refugees, however, cannot claim their houses that they owned in Jerusalem prior to 1948. So there's a clear disparity in the law here.
Yeah. Now, just looking at this more broadly, what's been the approach to the expansion of settlements under the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel?
Well, Netanyahu has been clearly expanding settlements in the West Bank and in East Jerusalem. East Jerusalem is still considered an occupied city under international law. Israel has been expanding, in more general terms, settlements in the West Bank. And since the Oslo Accords, in fact, settlements have only increased in a very significant way.
And so how does this latest move fit into that bigger picture of the Netanyahu approach?
Netanyahu is struggling over power following the last Israeli elections. So what we are seeing now is an deliberate attempt also by Netanyahu to escalate the situation in order to prevent an alternative government from being formed. So this is a classic Netanyahu move, if you will, in which escalating the situation to stay in power.
And so Hamas has been firing rockets into Israel now. What's the strength of Hamas now? Has its military power been significantly diminished over recent years?
This is a claim that Israel is making. However, I think it is doubtful whether its military capacity has been reduced. But this is for the next few days or the next couple of weeks to see. But the question is not Hamas military capability, but it is the Israeli attack on Palestinians in the West Bank, in East Jerusalem, in Gaza, and inside Israel, where Palestinian citizens of Israel are We have 20 dead in Gaza, including 9 children. And we have a Palestinian citizen of Israel just now reported shot dead by settlers in the city of Lid inside what we refer to as Israel.
Okay, and so does Hamas have much support from other countries in the region on this, or does that appear to have been waning in recent years?
I think it is safe to say that different states in the region are not interested in an escalation of the situation on the ground. This has been the case in the past decade, at least, if not more. So there is no interest by Arab states to escalate the situation.
Yeah. And so does that embolden Israel, or does that embolden Benjamin Netanyahu to pursue this further?
Netanyahu is definitely going to escalate the situation. Israeli cabinet has just announced a military operation on Gaza called Guardian of the Walls. So we are anticipating in the next few days more casualties among Palestinians. Israel has placed snipers on Al-Aqsa Mosque, targeting hundreds of Palestinian worshippers now inside the mosque during the holy month of Ramadan. And as the Eid approaching, the situation on the ground, I cannot emphasize it enough, is extremely, extrememely worrying. And it is time for the Australian government to condemn Israel, and it is time for the international community to step up and provide protections to Palestinians on the ground, Palestinian in Gaza, in the West Bank, and inside Israel.
So you're deeply concerned about the possibilities for this to intensify further over the coming days?
I am deeply, deeply concerned by the situation. The last time we have seen such an escalation was 2014, the war on Gaza. Before that, 2000, the beginning of the second Intifada. It doesn't look that Israel is interested in de-escalating now, which means that we are heading for a few very, very difficult and probably bloody days ahead.
Okay, Alana Tatur, thanks so much for talking to us this morning from Launceston.
Thank you for having me.